if I remember correctly, with the government, there's 3 levels. There's like local, state, and federal.
Yep.
Are we only able to secure contracts like from one level of government, or are we able to get different types of contracts from different levels of government? How does that work?
Yeah, so you're able to get different types of contracts from various levels, all 3. Like, I'm more than just a person that teaches people how to get government contracts. I'm a wealth creator. I show you how to multiply your wealth and optimize your business for wealth creation. And so for me, when you're in position to get a contract for local, state, and or federal, regardless of what vehicle they roll that money or those opportunities out, you are ready and prepared, because there may be an opportunity right now in your city that you can participate. If you're not city certified as a local small business, you can't participate in those set aside funds. There may be an opportunity in your state that you can participate. You're well qualified, you have the skill set. You may not be able to participate in it if you're not doing those steps.
Right.
And then on the federal level, it doesn't matter if you are black, white, green, brown. If there are opportunities out there, it doesn't matter if you're a contractor. You know where to go buy toilet paper. You can get that toilet paper contract. So I say to optimize so that you're in position to grab the money on every level of government
system. Have you seen one specific indicator of individuals that have tried to come into the space and not been able to have success? Because I want to be able to remove any type of excuses or any type of reasons for someone to come in here and not win.
Self-doubt, self-talk, doubt, fear, giving up, quitting. Those are all the reasons why a person who gets into this field may not win. But if you're a believer that it can work for you and you actually do the work, it will work. It's not that some people win and some people don't. No, the difference between the person who wins and a person who don't is the conversations that you're having with yourself in your mind. If you're a quitter, this is not going to work for you. But if you are the type of person that believe it can work and you're an action taker, you will make mistakes along the way. But as long as you don't quit, you will win.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your #1 source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today, is a very special day because our guest today is a mother, wife, entrepreneur, business coach, public speaker, and government contract strategist extraordinaire. With over 15 plus years of business experience, our guest has taken her expertise of running a multi-million-dollar empire and used it to empower minority business owners all across the country on how to grow profitable businesses by leveraging government contracts. Whether she's coaching business owners through her $1 trillion GovCon accelerator program or teaching entrepreneurs how to build a multi-6-figure business through her monthly GovCon challenge, our guest's mission remains the same: to give business owners just like you the tools, information, and resources needed to live life by design, not by default. And today, she's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, by way of San Francisco, California, I'm here with the one, the only, Dr. Karwanna D. Irving. How are you?
Awesome. Thank you. Doing great.
Most definitely. It's a pleasure to have you on, Doctor. How's on your end?
Everything's amazing, getting ready for the new year. They say you got to stay, a couple quarters ahead to plan for the new year. So I'm ready.
Most definitely. And same on my end. And, more importantly, I'm extremely excited to be able to have this sit down with you. I said it off camera. I'll say it again on camera. I've been following you for a little bit now, and this is a field or arena I've always wanted to tackle for quite some time, but I was waiting for the right person to sit down with to really unpack it for my audience. And I said, who better than the best of the best? Dr. Karwana D. Irving herself.
Let's get into it. I'm definitely ready to unpack it for sure.
Let's do it. I'm extremely excited. So, of course, I know who you are, but of course, we want to take some time for those who are unfamiliar to get familiar. So before we get into the fun stuff, the government contracting side of things, for those who don't know, who exactly is Dr. Karwanna D. Irving?
I am a government contracts extraordinaire who actually is just a regular simple girl, from the urban community who was really just trying to figure out how to turn a nickel into a dollar and a dollar into $10 and trying to figure out how to get ahead. And so I grew up, of course, in the San Francisco Bay Area by way of being born in Louisiana. And I grew up the fourth of seven children. So I
Mm-hmm.
come from a single parent household in the very middle of the middle class, right? So my mom, of course, she worked a lot growing up, but I personally remember a struggling childhood. Even though we had everything that we wanted, there was a lot of things that I knew I couldn't access because of lack of capital, lack of resources, because my mom had seven children to provide for. And so for me, I always had the mentality that I wanted to have more. I just didn't know that it was going to be entrepreneurship, that got me to where I wanted to be. And so, I mean, it's been a long journey, but in a nutshell, that's pretty much who I am. I'm just a regular business entrepreneur who's looking to grow. And as I'm growing, I'm helping other people to grow as well.
I love that. I love that. Let's dive a little bit more into your early stages of entrepreneurship and really
Yeah.
unpack this thing, because people see who you are now, but it was a long journey for you to get here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, because from what I understand, your start began, if I remember correctly, in the early 2000s, I believe 2003, and you had gotten started in the video production industry. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So it's crazy that I bought into the American dream of going to school, getting a college education, get a job, and all those things before even entrepreneurship. And I did those things and found myself really burnt out,
Mm.
working really hard. Even though I was making a fair amount of money, I was working really hard and I didn't have much time for me after work. And so I started thinking about entrepreneurship. That is where, even though I didn't know much about entrepreneurship, I was like, let me just go in it and figure it out along the way. And so before I even started the video production company, I tried a lot of things. I tried Mary Kay, I tried Ace, multi-level marketing, sold the
Mm-hmm.
juices, all those different things. And then I remembered my passion. So when I went to college, I actually went to school for mass communication with an emphasis on broadcast communication. So I fell in love with the whole media industry, broadcast, editing, video, and all those different things. And so after a couple years of trying to figure out how to really start a business or do a business that actually made money or at least replaced my income, I decided to go with my passion, which was video production. And like most people, you are told that it's going to take 2 to 5 years to really grow a business and make a profit. And I believed that. And because
Right.
I believed it and valued it, that's what happened to me. In fact, it didn't take me 5 years. It took me like 7 years to really understand. And so I made all the mistakes. I chased customers. I struggled. I worked overtime. We're talking about a 40 to 50 hour work week or more to make very little. And that very little was like 30,000 a year
Right.
in California. Nobody could really live off of that. And so it wasn't until I started freelancing for a billionaire. In fact, he just happened to be a Black billionaire. And I
Mm-hmm.
asked him the question of how he became so successful. And he told me it was because of government contracts, and that is what helped him. And it took me a couple years to figure it out. But once I did, I was able to double my revenue for just 28 days of work. So for 28 days of doing video photography work, I secured a $70,000 contract, and it literally blew my mind. Like, you just whistled right there, but it just literally blew my mind that you can make that type of money in such a short period of time, especially coming from struggling and working hard, right? And so at first I thought it was a mistake, honestly. As most people that see things that are great for them, they think this can't be right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been programmed to believe that everything has to be hard. So I really thought that was too easy to make that kind of money. And so when I saw how easy it was for me to implement the system into my business, I landed 2 additional contracts, and in just 6 months grew my business to multiple six figures. And for me, that was like, this is the biggest kept secret that I think most people need to know. Most entrepreneurs are not aware of. And I think it's so transformational that I just start telling everybody about it.
Most
So that's
definitely.
a little bit about the journey for me.
That was more than a little bit. That was a lot. But once again, it's important for us to dive into that, because especially in the day and age that we live in now, a lot of people see the finished product, but there's
Yeah.
so much that goes
Mhm.
into
Yeah.
where you are now.
Yeah.
let's dive a little bit deeper into that, because in me learning about your story, there
Mhm.
was that turning point that you had to go through in
Mhm.
you going through the grind. You're working 40, 50-hour weeks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Trying to break that glass ceiling and build a
Yeah.
successful business, but nothing
Mhm.
is seeming to come together.
Yeah.
There was a very low point for you where all at the same time, from what I understand, you're going through a divorce,
Yeah.
you're financially not where you want to be,
Yes.
and you have your son, and
Yeah.
your son is in a situation where I believe he's like going through a growth spurt, and
Yeah.
you're in a position financially where you can't even afford to
To
buy
buy
your son a new pair of shoes.
shoes. Yep. That and I don't know if for parents out there, I think that is like heartbreaking when
Mm-hmm.
you're in a position like that, because you're like, oh, I have this child that I'm supposed to protect and nurture and provide for, and I can't even afford to do that because I'm struggling to trying to figure out how I'm going to make ends meet and robbing Peter to pay Paul. I was that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start doubting myself, and I started asking myself, well, should I go back to work? Right. I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about the security, or what I thought would have been security. And then I remembered who I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whose I were, who I who I was. I remembered who I was.
Right.
And I say, you know what? You are the child of God, and I am, and I love the Lord. And I just started saying, God, I trust you. God, I trust you. God, I trust you. And I just started walking in faith in
Mm-hmm.
my business. And I started believing that this too is a part of the journey, and it's going to be a part of my story. And so it was then, like, once my divorce literally became, and I don't promote divorce or anything like that, but I believe a lot of my blessings was tied up in just being married to the wrong person at the time. And so, like, literally 7 days after my divorce, and it's something about the seventh day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to even get into the biblical principle of day seven. That's when
Mm-hmm.
God rested. But anyways, um, that's when that first $70,000 contract was awarded to me. Right after that, and that's when I started seeing God's purpose, His plan, His word come alive, in my life. And I was like, oh my God, I just grew to multiple six figures in a single month. How
Mm-hmm.
powerful! Most small business entrepreneurs can't even do that in a year,
Yep.
let alone in a single month. And then I saw this phenomena, like, the government is obligated to spend a certain percentage of their business spending with minorities, with women, with veterans, with small businesses, and those who have been socially, economically disadvantaged. And that was me. I
Mm-hmm.
was at every great disadvantage. I remember, before transforming my life with government contracts, I remember there would be like gunshots in the neighborhood that I lived in, and I hated living there. I grew up there. I loved the community. I loved all that stuff, but I hated the blight that I
Mm-hmm.
had to face there, and I did not want my children growing up in that environment. But I had no other choice but to just to bear with it. And so I remember there used to be gunshots, and I would go run and grab my children and just, drop down, afraid that a bullet was going to come through my house, because my brother had lived probably about 7 doors down, and a bullet came through his house, and it
Wow.
like flew right over his head. And one time a bullet actually did come through my son's bedroom, and it was like his bed was about this high. The bullet came through the wall right here. And I didn't even know it or notice it until after the fact. One day I went to go pick him up from school, and I'm like, what is this hole right here? And I looked on the outside of the house, and I noticed that it was a bullet, and it
Wow.
was from a shooting that had happened a couple nights before. And I was like, I got to get myself out of this situation. And that's when I just really started thinking about how I was going to take this information that I had learned about government contracts to change my life, to
Mm-hmm.
change my family legacy, to save my children, and to get them out of the situation of, just growing up in a blighted community.
Powerful, 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 powerful. I want to. So then I'll ask you then if that's the case, because not only are you a successful business owner now, but you coach several other new and aspiring business owners
Mhm,
who are looking to mimic the same success you've been able to have, if not even
mhm,
more.
mhm.
What do you think is the biggest reason why most business owners find themselves stuck? Is it more due to a lack of information, or is it more so due to a lack of pain, a lack of motivation? Because you talked about with yourself getting to
Yeah,
that low point of just like, I have to change. I can't be
yeah,
here for the greater good of
yeah.
my son that I'm trying to
Mhm.
raise. So is it more information, or is it more lack of motivation?
I think it comes from within. It's more lack of not even motivation but purpose, right?
Okay.
You have to have a great purpose to navigate through minimal information as provided, confusion and bureaucracy and red tape. You have to be motivated and keep your eyes on the prize. For me, I knew what was important to me. I knew it was important for me to get myself out of the neighborhood. I knew it was important for me to provide for my children, and to sustain my life. So for me, that was my drive. That was my purpose. And so I kept my eyes on the prize. So regardless of what was happening, all the no's, because you will get no's, in
Yep.
this particular industry. So you will get a lot of no's, but it was like all the no's was like, it's nothing compared to what I'm living. And so
Right.
you got to get to a place where you're just fed up and tired and
Yep.
sick and tired, right? And so I believe that most people in general, especially Black and brown people, have been programmed so much to the point to where they can't even see the opportunities when it's right in front of them, because they believe that you got to work hard to make the money, right? You got to spend a lot of hours to make the money. You got to have multiple serial businesses in order to really grow and make and create wealth. And you don't. It's not only lack of information, but misinformation. And also just like, who do you believe that you are? Like, what do you not know about yourself? People just don't believe.
Right.
People don't believe. And I think that what I love most about working with the entrepreneurs that I'm blessed to be able to encourage is giving them the belief that they can do things that seemingly is impossible, right?
Mhm.
And also reminding them of their purpose,
Yep.
right? It's all in the Bible, right? I
Mhm.
mean, I don't want to go into deep into the scripture, but it's all
Right.
in the Bible. It's like abundance is your birthright, and you're supposed to prosper even as your soul is prospering. You're supposed to be in good health. All of those things is biblical, and we are creators. We're made in the image of God, and so we shouldn't be struggling.
Mhm.
But because of the programming, a lot of people are just doing things wrong, backwards. They, instead of spending time on figuring out this thing that's guaranteed money, right? They are building websites, which doesn't produce money. They're building business cards that does not produce money. They're going to networking events where everybody's passing out cards, and that does not produce money. It's just like, but there's this phenomena that says, I must spend a percentage of this multi-trillion-dollar spend with people who look like you. And all you have to do is position yourself and have something to offer
Mhm.
that solves the problem. And there are hundreds of thousands of daily problems that the government, especially the federal government, daily alone is saying, here's the problem. We're looking for solvers, like
Right.
problem solvers. And a percentage of this needs to go to Black and brown people and women and socioeconomic disadvantage. And this is how you transfer the wealth from the government into your family so that you're able to be prosperous. And so, I could go on and on, like
I,
how.
I can literally feel how passionate you
Yeah.
are about this, because like not only has it changed your life, but it's changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of others that have access to this information. And now on this podcast episode, we want to be able to give that information to even more people. So let's just dive right into it then. For those who don't know, what exactly is a government contract?
So, I love that question. So, because I just like to color a picture, right?
Yes,
So, you know
sir.
how when you start a business, and if you go to business class or any type of business school or something like that, or a training, they tell you to carve out your target market, right?
Mhm.
And they say B2C. This is what we hear, B2C. And that's business to consumer. And they
Yep.
say your target market should be Tamika, who's age 40, who has a job that's making about $100,000 a year, who's maybe married with children and have a college education. Well, Tamika is one person. And in order to make multiple six figures or even six figures alone,
Yep.
you have to have multiple Tamikas in order to really hit that target, which is where now you're working like a slave.
Mhm.
And it's impossible for you to really, nearly impossible for you to really do it, because you don't have no financial capacity to get that type of reach, right? And so it's the contracting with the government, the B2G business model that most people are not aware of. And I believe that once you understand that targeting the government is the biggest client, one specific contract could be more than 10 times your revenue that you're making right now. You can literally 10 extra revenue in 6 months when you position yourself to do this right. As you saw, when I grew my business to multiple six figures, that's over $245,000 in a single month. But before I was doing that, that's 10x what I was doing in a year doing the B2C business model. And so I love empowering entrepreneurs and informing them of like this little known phenomena, because I know that it can definitely transform their lives. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you're enjoying it. I wanted to take some time to invite you to join me in the GovCon Challenge. The GovCon Challenge takes place once a month, where I invite a bunch of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to come and have me teach you the 5 things you must do to pre-qualify your business to land lucrative contracts with the government. So join me in the GovCon Challenge. Click on the link in the description. You'll be glad you did. Join as VIP for exclusive behind-the-scenes information, and you could become a part of the top 1% of entrepreneurs across the nation. Now back to the video you were watching.
So we have these government contracts, right? And pretty much the government has contractual agreement with business owners like yourself to buy products or services from. Why is it that the government, I mean, it's the government, right? Like naturally, for myself, I'm not a very political person, but it's like, it's the government. They're all powerful. They could do whatever they want. They could stop this podcast right now if they want to, right? Why is the government going to Dr. Karwanna D? Why are they going to Dr. Karwanna D's students for products? And why is the government not going out and getting these things themselves versus going to you guys?
Because it's the law. And not only is it the law, it's mandated. So if you look up the Small Business Act of America, you would see that the government is obligated to do so, specifically because all the money that they have, which is the multiple trillions of dollars, who do you think that money comes from? It comes from the taxpayers. We are the taxpayers. And which is why they can't go spend your money like that. They can't just go spend your money. They got to give it back to you in some kind of way. Right. So when the government, like, you got to think of the government as a building, a bunch of buildings full of people. These are employees, people, right? And these people are eating, they're drinking, they're consuming, they're typing, they're thinking, they're doing all, they have mental health issues. They're looking for places to live. So all the things that they have to consume to operate in business and in life, they have to consume it through you, because you are the taxpayer. And so this is like a fair and equitable way of getting the money that you've already participated in putting into the government's pockets, getting some of that transference of wealth back, and in exchange for your service, right? And it's just the regular, we're talking about food-based businesses. We're talking about mental health services. We're talking about contractors, electricians, painters, art. People are getting contracts for singing and playing instruments, for doing musician services, for dancing. They're getting contracts for doing hair and cutting hair, barber services, for, as you saw, mine, videography, photography, web design, graphic design, you name it. I literally just quoted, submitted a quote for a contract. They wanted reams of paper, 400 reams of paper. It's a pallet. I saw a contract that I'm thinking about bidding on for 700 sheep to eat grass on the side of the road. 700 sheep to graze grass on the side of the freeway, right? And you don't have to have the sheep. You just got to know where to go get the people who does have the sheep. Right. And so it's just crazy that there are so many opportunities out there that were, in fact, this right here, $250,000 for sticky notes. If you know where to go get sticky notes, you can potentially secure yourself a $250,000 contract if you bid and either have the lowest quote or most compatible contract. It's just the opportunities are there. There is no reason why any small business owner, especially if you're Black and brown, you don't have to struggle if you do things the right way.
Okay, let me make sure I'm understanding. So I want to make sure me and you are walking the same path here. Let me make sure I have a full understanding. We have the government, right?
Yes.
The government has all this money. They have this money tucked away somewhere, and they are legally obligated to spend it in some way, shape, or form.
Yes.
They go to business owners like Dr. Karwana D. They may come to Marvin Francois. They may come to anyone who has a product or service to sell.
Yeah.
And you mean to tell me from physical products like reams of paper, pens, pencils, and papers, going all the way to services, if I heard you correctly, singing, dancing,
Yep.
entertainment and beyond, the government will take this pile of money and form contracts with business owners like you and I for
Absolutely.
these things. And
Absolutely.
we are able to make 5, sometimes even 10 times what we're probably already making now,
Yep.
selling these products and services to consumers and just changing who we're selling them to, i.e. now being the government. Am I understanding that
Yep.
correctly?
Absolutely. You're on point. So, and it's, so just think of it as selling in bulk. You're selling your products and services in bulk.
Okay.
That's it. And so, absolutely, that's exactly what it is. And they literally buy everything.
What is the most amount of money that you personally have ever seen someone get from just one contract?
Well, the multi-billionaire that I was freelancing for, who made me very aware of this,
Mm-hmm.
had acquired multiple billions of dollars. One contract was like over $2 billion. Yeah, and it's for, but he was a construction contractor engineer, so he was like doing excavation and building and things like that. So $2 billion. So I have a colleague who's in real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and her best friend was at a conference and showed her a contract that she was awarded for real estate services.
Mm.
It was $80 billion. 80 billion, right? So depending on your industry and depending on, the size of the scope of work, the length, the term of the contract, you can get anywhere from $250,000 all the way up to multiple millions or even billions, depending on your industry. The average contract awarded, and you can like Google this, what is the average government contract awarded to a small business, is
Mm-hmm.
over $2.7 million annually per small business, right? In 2020, the federal government alone spent over $10 trillion on business products and services, and their obligation was 26% of that spend had to go to socioeconomic disadvantaged businesses. And so that's 2.6 trillion that's on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But yet in 2020, during COVID, now this is at the height of COVID, so many Black and brown businesses went out of business. So many mom and pop shops went out of business. So many companies that are not aware of this contracting phenomena went out of business, and they had to close their doors. But yet there was $2.7 trillion on the table. I was able to more than 10x my business during COVID. So when they have these things on the news, like it's a recession or there's some mass diseases like COVID or something's happening, right? In the media, you know what the government is doing? They're creating new budgets to solve those problems. And so if you become a problem solver during those periods, you're making money. You're 10xing, you're 100xing your business. During that period, there was a young man, they were buying hand sanitizers and facial masks. There was a young man, he was 16 years old. His name is Wesley Ross, who secured millions of dollars just selling the hand sanitizers and facial masks. He didn't have to make it. All he had to do was go find where to buy it and sell it to the government. They were buying it. You got to think about, can the government go buy their own face mask? Why are they have this such a great need? No, they can't go buy it themselves. They have to buy it from business owners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that means there was a problem. If you can solve the problem, you can get paid tremendously, handsomely, for solving those problems. So really, it's just about, what is your purpose? What is the purpose you were designed to solve the problem for, and solve that problem in a greater capacity with the government, because now you're doing it one to many.
This is insane. This is okay. Let me take a couple steps back here before we dive deeper into the government contracting space.
Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. One of your mentors, a gentleman that I follow very closely, Dr. Myron Golden,
Yes.
he actually has a quote I love. He says, "It's easier to make a lot of money in a little bit of time than it is for you to make a little bit of money in a lot of time." And now listening to you unpack all this, you've been on both sides of the coin, right? Mm-hmm. You were in a situation where you were putting in 40, 50 hour weeks, making a little bit of money. Yeah. Your first contract, you're multiplying that by X amount, right?
For a little bit of time.
For a little bit of time. And now fast forward, helping other people do the same. From your first contract up until now, what exactly, as you're navigating this government contracting space, like you said, multiple $1 trillion that the government is literally sitting there like, hey, it's for y'all. If you want it, you can come get it. But somebody gonna have to get this money.
Yeah.
Now being in this industry and going through that transition from the video production space now to the government contracting space, what is the biggest lesson about building a successful business that transition has taught you?
It taught me something. I mean, I've learned so much. In fact, Dr. Myron Golden is also now my client. So he's also, not only is he my mentor, but he said he want to go out and figure out how to get some of that money himself. And he's highly successful, right? He's very successful. And so one of the things that it's taught me is financial literacy. That used to be a boring term for me.
Yep.
Like, it's taught me the truth about finances, the truth about wealth, the truth about abundance, the truth about removing the limitations that we have because of the programming that we have, right? So like you said, that you can make a lot of money in a little bit of time. And by the way, those 28 days of work for that $70,000 that I worked for was only 2 hours a day. So that's crazy. 56 hours. That's equivalent to one work week for $70,000. So just imagine doing that every month, you know? And so when I understood the truth, right, it just opened up my mind. It also taught me my greater purpose. So like, I've always been a giver and a server. Like, I've always loved helping people. Even when I was broke, I was helping people. Like, I would give people my last. I would, take the shirt off my back and give it to somebody if they needed it. So I always had a heart to serve. So now I'm in a position to really serve in a greater capacity. And I feel blessed to do it, to be able to help people not only access capital for themselves, but to create wealth in the process, but also learn the truth about money. Because when you don't know the truth about money, you lose it. Period. Right? Money is a tool. It is not something that you're supposed to covet. It's something that you're supposed to use to make more money. That is the only purpose in a job for money, is not to put it under a pillow, but to put it into vehicles by which it's growing. And your passive income, eventually, when you do this correctly, will outpace and outgrow your active income. And that's the only true way of having financial freedom and time freedom, is to figure out the system. And that is what it has taught me, how to figure out the system.
And listen, by the game that you're giving me right now, it sounds like you chose the best system there is. Listen, if you guys don't see this podcast anymore, you see that the government owns it. You know why? It's Dr. Karwanna's fault. She didn't make me sell the podcast to the government, y'all. No, okay. So now let's start from ground zero, right? Let's say I'm a business owner. I have a product or service. You could choose. I'll let you choose whatever one you want. I come to you and I say, all right, Dr. Karwanna, I'm sold. I want to sell this thing that I've been selling to these individuals. I want to shift my avatar. I want to start selling to the government. From start all the way to contract secured. What's the step-by-step process I have to take to secure my first contract?
Yeah. So great question. So really, I love helping small businesses navigate the system. And over the past 2 years alone, I've helped more than 5,000 small business entrepreneurs get pre-qualified for government contracts. And I've helped a handful of them actually secure and generate over 25 million and growing in additional revenues on top of what they were already doing. And really, it all starts with a 4-step system. The first step is having the right business foundation. A lot of times especially when you're a small business owner, and by the way, the definition of a small business owner by way of the Small Business Administration defines a small business as any company that has under 500 employees and makes less than $20 million a year for 5 years straight. So we're talking about people who are really disenfranchised. When you're talking about, most small business owners don't even make 6 figures, and that starts at $100,000. In fact, 86% of small businesses in America make less than $100,000, right? And so when they're talking about that, many of those small business owners, the reason why they are small is because they are just unaware that you do have to have the right foundation. And that is having all of your ducks in order, having your EIN, your LLC documents. If you're an S Corp, making sure that you have all of those records. Your taxes must be compliant, a copy of your birth certificate. Once you have your fundamental documents, then you can get certified. Getting certified as a small business that is minority, that is woman-owned, that is veteran, LGBT, whatever your socioeconomic disadvantage is, it is your golden ticket to participating in the pools of money that they have set aside for those socially economically disadvantaged groups. Is money with your name on it, right? But you got to go through the paperwork in order to claim it. And so next we have marketing. You must understand how to market yourself to the decision makers, to those who are writing the checks. You have to understand the value that you bring. So you're not selling your time for money anymore. Now you're selling your value for large contracts. And so you got to understand how to demonstrate the value that you bring. And I help people unlock the value in my 5-day challenge. We talk about more of
We're
that
gonna get to
more.
that.
But then finally, proposals. Once you've done those first three steps, now all you're doing is identifying opportunities and responding to them. And you have to do it consistently. Identify the opportunities and respond to them. And they're telling you exactly what the problem is and how to respond. They
Right.
give you the instructions on how to respond, but most people are fearful when it comes to that. Like, oh my God, it's a lot of pages, and I don't understand the language. And what if I mess up? What if I quote too much? Or what if I underbid? It's all of these questions that begin to go through your head, and it's all it is fear, the fear of success. But if you just do it and learn along the way, eventually those no's will begin to turn into yeses. And so once you do that, those 4 steps, that's it. Then it becomes rinse and repeat. Look for the opportunities and respond to them. And now you have a system by which you're able to print and make as much money as you possibly as you want to.
Love that. With government, and once again, this is for me. I am not, anyone who knows me knows I'm not into like politics and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I'm learning as you're teaching me. But if I remember correctly, with the government, there's like 3 levels. There's like local, state, and federal.
Yep.
So
Yes.
are we only able to secure contracts like from one level of government, or are we able to get different types of contracts from different levels of government? How does that work?
Yeah, so you're able to get different types of contracts from various levels, all 3. Like I'm more than just a person that teaches people how to get government contracts. I'm a wealth creator. I show you how to multiply your wealth and optimize your business for wealth creation. And so for me, it's like when you're in position to get a contract for local, state, and or federal, regardless of what vehicle they roll that money or those opportunities out, you are ready and prepared, because there may be an opportunity right now in your city that you can participate. If you're not city certified as a local small business, you can't participate in those set aside funds. There may be an opportunity in your state that you can participate. You're well qualified, you have the skill set. You may not be able to participate in it if you're not doing those steps.
Right.
And then on the federal level, it doesn't matter if you are black, white, green, brown. If there are opportunities out there, it doesn't matter if you're a contractor. You know where to go buy toilet paper. You can get that toilet paper contract. So I say to optimize so that you're in position to grab the money on every level of government.
I love that. You're in a position now where you've coached so many entrepreneurs that have wanted to venture into this space. You talked about, the 4 steps of that being the foundation, the certification, and then of course the marketing, and then also the proposals as well.
Yes.
What have you seen, if not within that 4-step system? Have you seen one specific indicator of individuals that have come into or try to come into the space and not been able to have success? Because I want to be able to remove any type of excuses or any type of reasons for someone to come in here and not win. What has, if not outside of that 4-step system, has there ever been anything that has been the common reason why people have tried to come in the government contracting space and say like, oh, this doesn't work, it's not true, it's not going to happen? Talk to me about that.
Self-doubt, self-talk, doubt, fear, giving up, quitting. Those are all the reasons why a person who gets into this field may not win. But if you're a believer that it can work for you and you actually do the work, it will work. Right. So it's not that oh, some people win and some people don't. No, the difference between the person who wins and a person who don't is the conversations that you're having with yourself in your mind. If you're a quitter, this is not going to work for you. But if you are the type of person that believe it can work and you're an action taker, you will make mistakes along the way. But as long as you don't quit, you will win. And so that is the difference between the person who wins and don't. Your mindset.
I love it. I love it. As we start to close things out, I know we talked about it earlier, but I want to circle back to it. The humble beginnings that you came from. You mentioned at the top being number 4 out of 7 children from Louisiana. You moved to San Francisco. You're raised there. Fast forward several years later, you start your first business, just in the trenches, trying to find success. And it seems like nothing's working, to where you are now, right? Not only having success for yourself, but also helping to establish success for other aspiring business owners as well. Could you speak to entrepreneurs who may be watching this sit down right now, and where they are today is very similar to exactly where you were several years ago before you had that turning point to come into the government contracting space. If you could say anything to them that you wish you would have heard, outside of course, the conversation you had with the billionaire at the time, but if you could say something to them that you wish you heard at that point in time in your life that you know would help them to break the same glass ceiling you had over yourself, what would that be?
I actually wish that I would have heard that there's more to the American dream than going to school, getting a job, and buying a house. I didn't know that all of that was like really untruth, right? So it was all a lie. Even though you can do that, but the person who does that and follow that is the average middle class American, which the middle class is the new poor, if you have not noticed, right? So you're the person that pays 50% taxes or more and begins to struggle with hundreds of thousands of student loans and debt, right? And so if that is you, like if that's you, you know I'm telling the truth because I've been there. I know what it's like, right? I wish I would have heard someone tell me the American dream is what you want. What do you want out of life? It's whatever you want to accomplish. And for me, the things that I always wanted to accomplish was wealth and prosperity, but also just so I won't have to struggle. Because I knew it was going to take money in order to have the type of lifestyle that I wanted. And I didn't know how it was going to come. But this has like been the greatest phenomenon. This has been the greatest awakening that I've had, is learning about contracting with the government and understanding my worth and my value. And also, that college is not always the only way. College is great. And that's another thing. Like, we were told that, if you go to school, you're going to make all this money, you're going to be, top of the class and all this stuff. But unless you are a doctor or a lawyer or some type of psychologist, college is really overrated. And I have a doctorate degree, I have a PhD, all those things. And so I'm not against education, but I am against miseducation of the people, right? And I believe that we need to know about trades. There are people who graduate from school, go into the trades, and they're making multiple six figures in their first year. The trades, right? Entrepreneurship. There are people who graduate from school or even drop out of school, start a business, learn how to do it right, and they're making millions of dollars. But we are taught this one path: go to school, get an education, get a job, right? And that is the struggle. That's the struggle path. And so I wish I would have had not only that mentor, but just awareness, the truth, right? Just like we were told that Christopher Columbus discovered America, and it wasn't until you was grown and able to do your own research, you start seeing that everything that you were taught was a lie. And then you start questioning, like, why do I know the wrong things? Why do I know Tony the Tiger is great? Why do I know about, what is the man, Jeffrey from Toys R Us? I'm a Toys R Us. Why do I know these things? But then I don't know how to multiply my wealth. I don't know that Bank of America and Wells Fargo and all of those different companies are basically robbing us and making money off us, where there are other banks that are out there that will give you percentage compound interest that's 5 and 6% of your money, whereas making money. Why don't I know those things? And so I wish I would have known more truth and had more people, reveal those truths to me at a very earlier age.
Powerful. Dr. Karwanna D, I appreciate your time immensely. I know that you have two programs. Well, one, you have your monthly GovCon challenge, which I would love for you to talk about as well for those who are watching and want to learn even more about the government contracting space. Talk to the individuals who are watching about that. And then also, of course, where they can find you as well.
Yeah, so I have the GovCon challenge.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
you can actually get registered, govconchallenge.com, for our upcoming training. This is where we walk you through the process, and I'm pretty sure you'll have the link in the show notes for everybody. So this is where we walk you through the process of getting your business pre-qualified. And during that challenge, not only do you become awake and aware, but you understand your value and how much money is on the table, so you can have a game plan to participate in this transference of wealth. So my mission is to help 1,000 Black and brown and women entrepreneurs secure their million in government contracts. That's $1 billion in financial impact. Imagine what that would do for our communities, our babies, our future. Just imagine what that would do, right? And so outside of that, you must go through the pre-qual challenge in order to qualify for me to be your mentor, because we have to be on the same page. You have to understand and know what I know before I can mentor you, because it becomes easier to help you get to the finish line and to help you get a result once you have at least the basic information. And so you can learn more about that after you go through the challenge. I do have a book that is available. It's called Don't Duck the Government. They've got your money, and it's all about how you can make millions pitching and winning government contracts. That's available at don'tduckthegovernmentbook.com. A lot of great, valuable information. But thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me here today.
Most definitely. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the value that you provided, not only me, but to everyone watching at home. And for the people who are watching and listening at home, if you haven't already, make sure you take a second, take a minute, take an hour to go ahead and show love to this episode and tap in with, of course, Dr. Karwanna D's monthly GovCon challenge. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Marv Francois. That's Dr. Karwanna D. Irving. Y'all have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. And as always, thank everyone, and God bless.